Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good.
What do we got?
I got a 1967 autographed Chicago Bears football.
The Bears!
That's right.
Hi!
I came to the pawn shop today to try to sell my football. Money would be just a nice little bonus from holding on to for 45 years. I'm putting it at $10,000 mark.
So how'd you get it?
My uncle gave me the ball. It was given to him by Ronnie Bull, a Chicago player, at a banquet. You can see him handing it there.
60s pro football wasn't at the level of college football yet. I mean, if you would read some of the programs they had from the games, there'd be giant ads talking about, could local businessmen in the area please give the players jobs during the off-season so they don't have to leave town to find work.
Right.
It isn't like today where this guy would be at a minimum making $4 million a season.
Right.
There's a story about a guy on the Packers who would actually come and do the maintenance on the field during the off-season. This is cool because it comes from a time when pro football was just starting to explode in popularity. And back then, those guys didn't have all the protective gear they have now, so those guys were grinding it out all season long. So this one should have Dick Butkus or...
Yes, he's on there. The big name to me is George Halas because this is the last year that George Halas was a head coach. And he started in 1920, and this is 1967.
I mean, he was pretty much one of the guys that helped start the NFL into what it is,
Sure
right?
was. Sure was.
And it's got Gale Sayers and Brian Piccolo on it, right?
Both of them.
Those are pretty desirable. Brian Song, the movie, everybody knows it. I mean, it's a huge movie. Brian Piccolo gets cancer, and it's about him and Gale Sayers' relationship. Brian Piccolo's signature is pretty rare. He died at the age of 26 and became a legend because of his story. Pair that with his friend Gale Sayers' signature and a bunch of other Hall of Famers, this thing could be worth a lot of money. So what'd you want to do with it, man?
Sell it.
Any particular amount you're looking for?
Just from what I've seen on the internet, and what I put on it was $10,000.
You know, here are some of the concerns I have with it. We have a picture there, obviously, but we have absolutely no authentication for the ball. Do you mind if I give a buddy of mine a call? He can kind of appraise it.
Sure, that's fine with me.
All right, man, I'll give him a call.
All right, thank you. There's no way that these can be fake because my uncle received the ball from Ronnie Bull, a player on the Chicago Bears at the time. So, yeah, I feel good. I feel very good about it.
No other team in the NFL has more wins than the Chicago Bears. The 1967 season was absolutely huge, but it wasn't because of their record. They barely had a winning season, but that was the last year of an era for them. Coach George Halas, after 40 years, that was his last year coaching. The 1967 squad also had some marquee players in Dick Butkus, Gale Sayers, and what became Brian Piccolo as well. The Chicago Bears are one of the two oldest teams who are still playing in the NFL, and as far as fan bases go, they have one of the most loyal fan bases of any team out there. What concerns do you have?
There's a lot of signatures on this ball. Plus, I don't know what to price it as because they're relatively famous players.
Absolutely.
And as we all know, Brian Piccolo isn't around anymore.
All right, so right here, first off the bat, we have Gale Sayers. He went to the Pro Bowl 5 consecutive years, had 2 rushing titles, and is the youngest guy ever to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. From there, we go on to Dick Butkus, who's in the Hall of Fame as well. Right in the middle, George Halas. Legendary coach, probably one of the most influential and important people in football history. Now, to the left of his name, right here we have Brian Piccolo, who at this time he was just a backup to Gale Sayers. But over time, he would become immortal thanks largely to Brian's Song, the movie, which makes him, of everybody on this whole ball, the most important signature on here. Brian Piccolo came to the Chicago Bears as a backup to Gale Sayers. Fortunately, he had a run-in with cancer and passed away at the age of 26. Brian's Song came out in the early 70s, and he became an instant phenomenon amongst fans. Now, if we were dealing with an official ball, mint condition signatures, we'd be talking several $1,000s. Now, looking at some of the signatures, we have to determine whether or not these are even authentic ones. With George Halas, the 2 key characteristics are the G in George and the H in Halas. These signatures are very difficult to fake. And it's the same thing on Dick Butkus. I mean, his D almost looks like an N. A lot of people say, hey, who's this guy, Nick Butkus? But it's got a very distinct signature. So those signatures, they're 100% spot on, exactly what I want to see in a 1967 ball. Now, the other signatures, you really got to focus on the characteristics of the autograph compared against other ones that have been proven to be authentic. And if we compare a Brian Piccolo signature here to the one on the football, primarily in the B, how it forms, and how at the end here, the L and the O dips off, these are contrasting signatures and very typical for what you see in a clubhouse signature. They were signed by somebody else other than the athlete.
What about the Gale Sayers?
Gale Sayers, the signatures I'm familiar with, it's a very robust, full letter G. This one just isn't characteristic of other Gale Sayers I've seen from the late part of the 1960s. So the Sayers, like the Piccolo, in my opinion, these are clubhouse autographs. This is very common, and all it really is, somebody knows the signature and does their best interpretation of it to try to make it look as authentic as possible.
I never heard of that before, and here I had the ball for 45 years. I thought all those signatures are legit on that ball.
It still has authentic autographs. George Halas and Dick Butkus, that's two solid Hall of Famers, and are always gonna have value. Considering the kind of ball it's on, which ones are real versus which ones are clubhouse, you're looking at maybe tops $1,000.
That's a big difference.
Right.
Jeremy, man, I appreciate you coming in.
Anytime, Corey.
All right, see you later.
Sadly, in sports memorabilia, it's a part of my job to have to break people's hearts sometimes. I will stand behind my opinion in that these are clubhouse signatures.
All right, man, so you heard my guy. He says it's worth probably around 1,000. I mean, I got a feeling this is gonna sit around for years. I'd offer you around $100 for it.
So I'll just keep holding on to it.
Right on, man, appreciate it.
I feel pretty let down. I think clubhouse signatures are very deceitful. I'd like to meet the people that do that and give them a piece of my mind. Does somebody want to buy a football?